normally want to look for a shoe that's going to allow the foot to move in its natural motion, kind of just like Ian was talking about how the foot can move. You don't want something that's going to act like a brick on the foot. Some people that you hear are very slappy. You want to have a fairly probably silent step. You shouldn't really hear that really loud step because it's usually an inefficient step. And so looking at kind of that wear pattern on the bottom, if you're wearing on the lateral side, or if you're, say, a lot of people say, oh, I really wear out on the rear of my heel. Well, when you're heel planting, that's just your natural strike zone is to land there and kind of roll through. So it's not that there's something wrong with the shoe or your foot type, it's just that's usually a natural wear pattern. As you wear a shoe more and more, you will start to lean out in the shoe and crush through the shoe, kind of heavier to stand like this. So if you have a really old shoe, that's going to show more and more wear out that way. So the shoe might have been fine to begin with, but you might have just over crushed the shoe. Shoes kind of work like a memory foam mattress, where you run in the shoe and the foam compresses, and then it rebounds overnight, and then you run it again, it compresses and rebounds, and eventually it doesn't rebound to its full self, and you kind of develop little, I kind of call them stress lines in the shoe, and it's just the foam hasn't gone back to its full resiliency, and so then you're just kind of breaking down that shock absorption factor of the shoe. Obviously, as you guys are building and you're training, you are beating down the body, and so doing everything we can to minimize that beating on the body can make a big difference and hopefully keep you injury free. When you guys, hopefully with the shoes that you wear, hopefully you're just running in the shoes. If you would think that you wear a shoe at work all day and you're wearing the shoes for 8 hours, what happens is you're compressing the foam for 8 hours, and then you go and run in the evening when your shoe is in its least shock absorbing state. So now your body has to take all the impact rather than the shoe absorbing the impact. So hopefully being able to wear a different shoe at work and then a different shoe than you run with, but then keeping in mind that if you're wearing 4-inch stilettos, that's not also going to help. That's going to shorten your Achilles, so that when you go to run and then you drop to a 10 millimeter or 8 millimeter offset shoe, and you're wearing a 4-inch heel, you're then having to lengthen that Achilles while you're trying to strengthen your Achilles or while you're beating on the body. So you want to make sure that your day-to-day shoe is also doing you just as much favor as your running shoe is. Sometimes it's better to wear a better shoe during the day. If you're, say, a nurse that's walking 16K a day, you're better off to wear a better shoe for work than for your 45-minute run, because you're putting a lot more miles at work and walking and stress on the body than you are actually in your run. People then tend to blame their running shoe as what's causing the issue, but sometimes it's what you're wearing during the day that's actually causing the issue, and then when you run, you put that extra stress, and then that's when the issue comes up and you notice it. So being aware of what you're wearing day to day, unless you're sitting at a desk, which a lot of people put their hands up, that paying attention to that is hugely important. Obviously, as you know, like when you come into the store, we have over 200 styles of shoes. So you go, well, how do I know what to wear or what's right for me? Hopefully that's where we come in and we can pick shoes that obviously different lengths and widths. And if a shoe is a narrow width, every narrow width from every company is different, just like every shoe size is different. So if you're a size 8, don't be afraid if you're in a size 9 in one shoe or in a 7.5 in another shoe. A sign in the store that says shoe size. Don't be afraid that if you go up a size, it's not like going up a pant size or whatever. The shoe size doesn't matter. It's what fits for you. As you guys build up in mileage, your feet can do a ton of different things. Same with like having kids, but some people's feet strengthen and actually, like if the arch kind of tightens up and the foot strengthens, the foot size can actually shrink a little bit. Other people, as the volume increases, their feet grow. So really everyone is individual. Same with what is comfortable for you is not necessarily comfortable for someone else. So like when we check at the toes and stuff like that, a friend of mine, Mark Nelson, who most of you probably know, he used to always have his toe hammered at the front of a shoe. And he's like, no, that's what it feels normal to him. Or people that used to figure skate or play hockey or play soccer that you're used to cleats, they tend to like a shoe where their toe is right at the end, but they don't feel any issue with it. Where some people like to have like a full thumb width. So obviously listen to a little bit of feedback of what we give to you guys, but then also knowing what's comfortable to you, because if you have a shoe that's too big, then sometimes what can happen is then you grip with your toes, because if it feels like your foot's swimming in the shoe, then you grip with your toes, and then as you grip with your toes, you tighten your arch and tighten your calf, and so you can actually fatigue or cause other strain just by gripping or subconsciously gripping. So being aware of how that fit is to you. The other thing, obviously, to keep aware of is not over-analyzing a shoe. So people will come in and they will go like, well, I feel like it's a bit snug here, or I feel like I have something here, or I feel like, and you want to go, when you put on a shoe, you want to just be like, I feel like I just have something on my foot. It's not impeding my motion, so it's not feeling like it's forcing me one way or the other. It just kind of feels natural on the foot, and usually that's going to end up working for you. We are, throughout this clinic, going to be trying to do some demo days, I think on February 10th, which is one of the recovery runs. We have Brooks coming, and they're going to be bringing a fleet of shoes. I know we had On come before, and throughout this clinic we'll have different demo days, and so you'll be able to try and go for 8K or 14K run should you want in the shoes, so you can test to see different shoes. As we get closer to marathon, half marathon, I wouldn't necessarily say you'd want to go for your long runs in a different shoe, because your body does adapt to a shoe. And with that as well is your body, as a shoe breaks down, your body's going to adapt to that shoe breaking down. So if it starts to kick you out, your body will slowly adapt to it, and then all of a sudden, okay, week out from the race, I need new shoes. I usually wouldn't recommend doing that, because a new shoe, not that it's going to control the foot, but if it's all of a sudden a little bit firmer and is not letting you stand in this position and lets you stand straight, the muscles that have compensated for you being out this way are all of a sudden not going to either be used, or different muscles be used, and then you're going to get a twinge or an issue come up. So not letting your shoes be hammered into the ground and all of a sudden panic that you need new shoes is hugely important. So thinking, now we're 3 months out from the event, so thinking, okay, where am I at with my shoes and how worn are they? That's where I'm using a watch. My Strava notifies me when I've reached 500K on a shoe. And I have multiple shoes that I cycle through, which I'll talk to you in a sec, but I have multiple shoes, so when I do a run, I load which shoe it was that I wore, so that it keeps track of all the mileage on my shoes. And then I do have obviously a lot of shoes, so I'm now wearing mine as my day-to-day shoes, so I don't have to worry about crushing through them during the day and then running them, because that does add a ton of mileage if it is your day-to-day wearing shoe, not just a running shoe. But knowing, okay, well, I want to be starting a shoe, say 6 months out, what you can do is you overlap the shoe. So rather than running the shoe into the ground, no pun intended, you change over. So say you go through a shoe in 6 months, is instead of waiting 6 months to get a new pair of shoes, start at 3 months or 4 months, and then alternate that shoe throughout your runs. What it will also do is it will give more rebound time for the foam to come back to closer to its full potential. So if you're running 6 days a week and you're running that same shoe, you're constantly just breaking it down, breaking it down, breaking it down. Where if you can alternate the shoe, you can get, instead of 12 or 24 hours recovery in that foam, you can get 48 hours recovery in that foam. Same with your foot also then has to adapt, especially if it's two different shoes, not necessarily the same shoe alternating. Two different styles of shoes that maybe have a slightly different offset, or one is a plush, cushiony shoe and one's a little bit firmer, more responsive cushioning. Your body will adapt differently to that, just like it'll adapt to running on grass versus road versus like concrete or asphalt. There's a lot of different impact on the body just between those two. They both feel hard as heck, but they both resonate through the body differently. So by alternating the shoes that you wear, your body isn't just fatiguing the same system each time. It lets different muscle groups and different vibrations come through the body, so that you're not just breaking yourself down. What else did I want to go into? Talking about like offsets of the shoe. For those who don't know what that means, it's the difference between your heel height and forefoot height. Born to Run, which is now kind of petered off a little bit, was about the whole minimalist and like zero drop shoes. And do I need to do that to run efficiently? No. It's like writing your name with a pencil or writing your name with a pen. It's two different utensils, but you still write your name the same way. So if you have a zero drop shoe or a 10 mil offset shoe, your form shouldn't be changed by the way you wear your or what shoe you wear. With that being said, though, is obviously if you have a little Vibram 5-fingered shoe, if you land on your heel, it's going to punish you dearly. Where if you have a plush or cushy Hoka on, it's going to let you heel plant. So it's going to let you kind of be lazy, where that other style shoe won't. So that's kind of the only difference in how your the shoe would affect the stride, but really you should be able to run with the same form regardless of the stack height. So finding what's natural to you. Mizuno did a test a few years ago where they, I think, made 10,000, no, what was it? Or a couple thousand pairs of their Wave Rider, which is kind of one of their main models, and they did a 12 mil, 10 mil, 8 mil, 4 mil offset, and they randomly seeded it to, maybe it was about 10,000 people, and then they took feedback from people, and obviously every foot strike is different and everyone likes a different shoe, but they found that for them their 12, I think their 12 mils was the most popular by far, and it just felt natural for them in that style of shoe, but another company might be 10 mil might feel better, so don't get caught up in, oh, I need to have this stack height. Other than looking at if you went to a 12 mil down to a shoe that has 4 mil, remember that 8 millimeter difference, that if you are halfway through your training and you have been running all your long runs with a 12 mil and then you go to do 32K the next day on a shoe that's 4 mil, you're getting 8 millimeters more stretch out of your, or asking for 8 millimeters more strain out of your Achilles and calf. And if you are still trying to build up in your runs, that's where you can really run into issues with injury. And obviously you can get super finite with leg discrepancies and heel lifts and stuff like that. And that would be more going to see someone who would assess the body to see if there's a discrepancy and finding out what works for you.
Where should your foot be landing when it's coming down? Like, where's like a kind of proper?
Yeah, so more form-based.
Yeah.
So I know Lucy's going to be talking about this, but it's, again, natural motion, so what works best for you should be what's best for you. When we were doing some of those drills with A's, B's, and C's, we're trying to essentially transition the foot strike to come under, like as I mentioned, underneath that center of gravity, so that we're always pulling forward. When you go out for your run, say this morning, just run what's comfortable with you. Don't worry about how is my foot striking underneath me, am I heel planting, am I landing on my forefoot, just run naturally. And then when we do the drills repeatedly, that's just going to naturally transition how your foot strike and hip position and body position will come out, or it'll naturally translate into your run so that you shouldn't have to think about it. You should really only work on it at those 10-second intervals or 10-second drills, and then as you do them more and more, it'll then just naturally translate into your run.
Nick, how often should you change your shoes then? You say 500 kilometers?
Yeah, suppliers say every year we have a shoe that lasts longer. They always seem to be in that, I would say, 500 to 800 kilometer range. When I say that too is if you're doing 100K a week, that 100K a week is going to, that's when I would say you're probably going to change out at 500 kilometers, where if you're doing 50K a week, you're getting more rebound time between that shoe, so then you're probably going to get more kilometers out of it. I have a friend, actually Mike Chandler, who I run with, he's currently on a New Balance shoe, and I think he might have broken 1,000K on them now, which is quite a lot, and he's been commuting even in his shoes, so he'll run 8K to work and 8K back and then still doing some long runs, and that's probably getting a little bit excessive, but he has been running the 8Ks on gravel goose, which makes a big difference than 8K of just straight pavement. So when you think about the terrain you're running on, I find I usually cycle through about 600K.
How can you tell when you look at your shoe?
I'm wearing actually a different style shoe today, but if you were to take your shoe off and kind of squish, say, through the forefoot, if you're able to push your thumbs through the shoe, they're probably toast. The softer the shoe becomes, then usually the mushier the shoe is, then the less resiliency the shoe has. If you were to go, it's a good way to do, bringing you, or next Wednesday when you're in the store, take your shoe off, squish through the forefoot, like just squishing through like this, not with your foot in the shoe, and then go to the wall and do the same thing with the shoe, and you'll feel the difference in that resiliency in the foam and how firm it is. And especially if you have an old shoe versus a shoe that you maybe just started wearing at home, you can do that same test to see kind of how it feels. Every foam composition is different from every company, so that's where we can kind of come in, and you can even give me your shoe and I can be like, oh yeah, there's still tons of life left, or oh no, you've toasted.
What drives me nuts about shoes is I get a favorite pair.
And then they change the model.
I finally remember I want this one, and then
Drives us nuts too. And that's where not letting a shoe become toast. It's not going like, I have a favorite pair of shoes, and they're just wearing them into the ground, because then invariably, one, that model might have ended, or then your body's become so used to that shoe that you can't, it's so hard on the body to adapt to a new shoe.
I'm just wondering, going back to the rate at which the shoe breaks down, if you wear orthotics, does that affect at all? Like, will your shoe last longer because you're less reliant on the shoes insole and more on the orthotic?
Nope, good question. So the insole in a shoe or your sock liner, all it does is protect you from the stitching of the shoe. The strobe elastone, or the elastone of the shoe, is pancake flat on the inside. What creates support within a shoe is either a dense plug of foam that they put into the midsole of the shoe, or how the shoe wraps around the midfoot. When you wear an orthotic, you want to obviously normally stick to a neutral shoe, because you don't want to, that's creating support in the shoe. Some orthotics will, depending on who makes your orthotic, I won't name names, but sometimes they overcorrect people, so people actually crush through it faster than others with an orthotic, because an orthotic generally is to stop for overpronation and the foot collapsing in, so it's kind of causes you to supinate. So sometimes, depending on the orthotic, you can actually wear the shoe down faster on the lateral side, so that you're actually breaking it down quicker than you would if you didn't have it in there. But really, it shouldn't. If it's sitting you into a neutral position, it should wear just the same.
So what about those insoles that you buy off the rack?
Yep.
I mean,
Like an over-the-counter orthotic.
well, it's not really an orthotic. It's just like those
The super feet and
Like,
stuff
yeah,
like
Super
that,
Feet, Curex.
I mean, it hurts my feelings to pay $225 for a pair of shoes and then
And then
Fuck
put
another
something else in it?
50.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
so what she's talking about, so you can have Super Feet, Curex, Sole, we have some West Coast orthopedic ones. I would kind of the Curex would be over here. The other ones I would say are a rigid insole that you put in that's going to control the motion of the foot. Curex methodology is that there's contour to the foot, which creates proprioception. So rather than controlling the motion of the foot and resisting the foot from collapsing in, Curex, what it does is it contacts every part of the foot. It's kind of if you were to step on a single nail, it'll jab right through your foot. If you step on a bed of 100 nails, your weight's distributed over that whole platform, so you don't puncture your foot. So the way a Curex works is that it contacts throughout the whole foot, so that it's triggering all the proprioceptive receptors in the bottom of your foot to keep the foot in its kind of natural position. That's why there's like kind of like low, medium, high, is for every arch, different arch profile, because you don't want to do, if you have a low line or a low arch, you don't want to put a high instep in there where it feels like it's hammering up. You just wanted that bit of kind of connectivity with the bottom of the arch. Really, you can strengthen the foot differently, doing different exercises, kind of like what Ian was talking about. Unfortunately, most of us don't practice what we preach. Like, I never stretch or do weights. And so Curex it's not really a band-aid, but it's a good way to kind of like help alleviate any added stress and kind of balance the foot out. And so that's kind of where those can come in. It's great additive, especially if you're wearing shoes that aren't cushioned and supportive, because if you can have the foot kind of sit how it should sit and trigger those muscles in the foot to activate. So say you're wearing some flats or Vans or Converse, Chuck Taylors like Rob was running in, having that insole in there can just kind of activate the muscles in the foot so that it's supporting you better and not just letting you collapse or drop in.
But isn't that part of what the shoe is supposed to be about? Isn't
Shoes-
that why we spend all this money and this time and looking at it and study and
Yeah.
have questions and the sole's not good enough?
The shoe is designed more for shock absorption and impact. So that it's vibration dampening, I guess, is what that's the new science behind shoes. Is not cushion. It's how can we reduce the vibration coming, or not cushion or control. It's how can we let the foot move in its natural progression while reducing vibration coming through the body, and having the foot activated with something like Curex it's basically triggering the foot muscles to activate. it's kind of like what Ian was talking about too. He's like a lot of manipulation or massage, or like when you have physios and they give you certain exercises to do, it's not that you're necessarily strengthening, like obviously you are strengthening, but it's getting those muscles to activate and to actually fire. And so having that connectivity through the arch is getting the foot muscles to activate. So in a flat shoe. Yeah, and so then in a shoe is because there's millions of foot types, companies kind of have to they try to say they fit to every foot, but they have to just basically make it flat so that it can like work with every foot shape. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
If we are experiencing some challenges with our feet, I have good runners, but I do have to wear office attire.
Yeah.
So is there anything you can put into a flat
Yep.
work?
Yeah, kind of like the Curex ones, or there's super feet like ones you can get for dress shoes and stuff like that.
Okay.
So that you can kind of, because those like something like that is so
Yeah.
flat.
Yeah.
Keeping in mind that if a shoe doesn't grip well around here, or if you can find a flat or a dress like a kind of shoe like that that kind of really connects through the foot and kind of contacts all parts of the foot, you can be better off than something that's just pancake flat and doesn't do anything for the foot. So when you try on a bunch of like nice dress shoes, ones that really wrap well around the foot can also help.
So with the notion of the vibration dampening sort of view of shoes, is there a difference between the neutral and I guess supporting the opposite of the neutral?
Like a motion control unit?
But no, well, I guess what I'm trying to, my question really is, what's the difference between neutral and supporting shoe?
Yeah, so every company does them differently. I'm currently wearing a neutral shoe, but I don't know if anyone's got a stability shoe on. But in a midsole of a shoe, what some companies will do is they'll insert either a different density of foam or durometer of foam, like a little plug that'll go through the inside of the shoe. Some will do dual densities or wedges in the shoe, so that instead of just a hard plug, it'll be a wedge, so that as your foot tries to roll through, the more it collapses in, the higher up the wedge you would collapse through, and then that's the denser foam, so that it should stabilize you and keep you straight. Mizuno uses a wave plate pattern. You're not wanting to, again, when you're trying on shoes, you don't want to feel like it's pushing you out, or really, you shouldn't necessarily feel the motion control within the shoe. That likely means it's overcorrecting you. So when you would come to us and we would fit the shoe for you and we watch you walk, and then we watch you walk in the shoe should just feel natural to you and should just move. You should just feel like you're just wearing a shoe. It shouldn't feel like it's forcing you one way or the other. If it does, then it probably means that it's not working with your foot. Like some people will find that if it's overcorrecting the foot, they'll get pressure out on the outside of their foot, and kind of like that can put a lot of strain on your cuboid bone, which you really don't want to have any issues with. So you really want to feel you want to feel neutral, even if you're in a motion control shoe. It should be how we see your foot move within that shoe that will let us know whether it's stabilizing you or not.
So the support is basically the pronation? Is that what it is?
Pronation control, yeah. Over pronation control. Pronation is just your natural heel to toe motion, and there's a really funny YouTube video that makes fun of minimalist shoes, and it talks about pronation, and it's like everybody pronates, because people misuse the term pronate, like, oh, I pronate. Of course you do. And so there's no shoes then also that stop under pronation or supination, and you never want to really force the foot to come in. You just want to be able to let the foot move, hopefully in its most natural position. And some companies like On, which I'm wearing right now, that's what they're basing their science off of, is they're trying to just guide the foot in its natural progression, so not put dense plugs of foam here and there to control the motion of the foot, but they try to do cutouts or takeaways within the shoe that just kind of lets the foot move naturally. Every company kind of does it with, like, they call it hot knifing, which is different in DC because it's usually supposed to leave. But the way they do the cutouts, it's they call it the guidelines, and it's how just to try to get the foot to toe off straight. Sometimes too, if you're looking at your feet without socks on and you have tons of callus buildup, if you're really building up on your big toe or your first met head, usually it's a sign of your foot's kind of taking off and kind of collapsing in a little bit early, and so it's kind of just always pulling on that skin so that it builds up that callus along the side. That's not always the case. Like I tend to always have calluses on my feet, especially if I'm marathon training. My feet turn to like leather on the bottom. And I found that if I run into a motion control shoe, it instantly flares up my T-bands. So if you were to watch me walk, I have a little bit of overpronation, but getting a shoe that just connects well through my midfoot, and I lace up my shoes, and so that it fits kind of snug around my midfoot. I get enough stability just from that proprioception of the lace wrapping around the foot that I don't need to control the shoe.
I really enjoyed the talk about shoes because as a runner, I've been running since the 70s, which was really the start of the whole, or I was about a decade into the whole running movement as a fitness as the fitness movement started coming along. And so, you know, when I was 10, growing up in Bedford, Nova Scotia, all we wore were those canvas shoes. I mean, there were no technical running shoes yet. In fact, we didn't even have these yet. Like, these are like retro shoes, but you're wearing, put your foot up. A lot of people are wearing these awesome retro shoes, which are really, they're remakes of models of the shoes that I started running in as a teenager when I first got my pair of real technical running shoes. But we all ran and sailed and played basketball and played soccer and ran through the forest and everything else that we did growing up in totally flat shoes. And they were probably as flat as the shoes that I'm wearing now. And then they were usually they were the Nike All-Court. That was the most popular shoe. It was like a little canvas shoe with a rubber sole. And when we weren't wearing shoes, we were generally in bare feet or in sock feet in our house. And I had British parents, so that if I had to wear dress shoes, I was wearing these leather Clarks with the crepe soles. I don't know if anybody remembers those, but they're, yeah. You had British parents, that's what you wore. And you could pick those shoes up and you could flex them this way and you could bend them all ways. So, you know, it was kind of a gift that I got to grow up at a time where having really good foot mobility was basically all we had. And we talk about these bricks of shoes that came along. Well, I have a picture of myself when I was probably in my first year at Dalhousie University, and I was very fortunate to have snagged a Nike sponsorship at the ripe young age of 18, which was a huge gift. It lasted for 20 years. So I got to wear Nikes for 20 years. And you talk about shoes changing. Somebody asked that question, like you just find your model of shoe and then it changes. Well, I wore Pegasus from the time I was 20 to the time I was 40, and there were years where I couldn't wear the Pegasus. I just couldn't. I don't know, it changed, the model changed, and I would have to wait to the next year and hope that they found another factory somewhere or they redesigned the shoe, and then the Pegasus would come back around. And I pretty much wore the Pegasus apart from a couple of years. But anyway, I have this picture of me at 18. I did it was a promo picture I did for Dow or for the local newspaper or something. And in the picture, my dad has it in his living room right now. I'm jogging along very slow because I have to jog along looking like a runner for the camera, but not go too fast. So my stride length is about like this. And I'm wearing a pair of Nike Air Max. Do you guys know Nike Air Max? Yeah, they are. My kids wear Air Max now, but they wear them. They're really expensive, and they just wear them to school. They're just a lifestyle shoe. Yeah, and I wish I'd saved that pair of Air Max in a box. Anyways, I'm looking at these shoes, and I remember putting the Air Max on for the first time. And no offense to Nike, but I was like, whoa, I cannot run in this shoe. It was technically, it was a brick. It was such a stiff shoe. It was crazy. It was so stiff. So I would just wear it for doing things like this, for doing talks, or for promotions. And then fast forward now to being 50, and really, I wear shoes that are more similar to the flexibility, the low heel drop that I wore when I was growing up at 16 than I ever wore in the middle part of my career. In fact, I do a lot of shoe testing now, and as long as I ask for a neutral shoe, I'm not very good with a structured shoe, like Nick was saying. If I put on a structured shoe, I immediately feel a lot of tension in my IT bands. I can throw on any shoe from almost any company now, and go for a run and it's comfortable. Like the midsole, it's everything, all the technology is so good. All the shoes are so flexible. The uppers, they hug your foot so well now that it's really just a matter, like Nick was saying, of just finding something that fits for you and that works for you and going for it. Because there's really, I mean, the shoes are really, really good. And before I get on into the next sort of few topics that I'm going to talk about, I actually did just write 2 articles about footwear on my blog. I have a blog called runforjoy.ca, and the title, if you go to the blog tab, it's basically, I have this anecdotal history of the running shoe that told from the sort of like the story of my career and what I worked, which you might find kind of interesting. And then on another tab, there's a whole article on footwear and choosing footwear, and basically reiterating what Nick just said, almost everything. So if you want to read it all over again, you can find it on my blog. Anyway, that's one of the books that I think